Welcome back to another episode of Play Action Fantasy Football. Cameron here. We got wide receiver start sits coming out right now. Got a couple more coming out a little bit later today. Fortunately, with the holidays, we usually have to do a little bit later, but good news for you folks, we're going to put it out a little bit sooner. We're going to get all of our rankings out yesterday. Now we're going to do all of our start sits today. So make sure you like, subscribe, goes a long way helping us here. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. Kicking us off for our first of three Thanksgiving Day games, we have the Packers and the Lions, and this one could be a little interesting here. As of right now, here's how I have it going for the Packers. Romeo Doubs is going to be a start for me, consistently putting up a good floor when it comes to fantasy points for wide receiver in PPR format. Going up against the Lions, who are 21st, and obviously had some exposure to them with Justin Fields and the Bears last week after Fields coming back from injury. Romeo Doubs should have a good opportunity, and the Lions give up a good amount of points here to outside receivers. They don't really give a lot to the slot receivers, which is why Jaden Reed is questionable with this injury, but he is also a cautionary start because of the fact he plays majority in the time of the slot. Christian Watson, on the other hand, man, his season, he's kind of been disappearing more and more, it seems like. He had 2 catches, 4 targets, 21 yards, and a touchdown. It's good enough for 10 points, but, he's been up and down consistently this year, and I don't like that. But going up against the Lions, like I said, they're 21st. I'll put them both as a cautionary start in this game. On the other side here, though, the Lions go up against the Packers, who are 7th amongst points given up to wide receivers. So Amon-Ra St. Brown will be a start for me, but Jameson Williams and Josh Reynolds are both going to be sits for this matchup. Now time for our 4 o'clock game here. Washington at Dallas. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson are going to be cautionary starts for me in this one. Curtis Samuel will be a sit in this matchup. And, it's a tough situation for the Commanders here for these receivers. They're going up against the 3rd best against the wide receiver position in fantasy football. But I think that they could put up some decent amount of points here in this matchup. Even if they fall behind early, they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. They're going to have to try to get some points on the board. Targets are going to be a major factor for points considering here in PPR formats especially, but McLaurin last week, 5 catches, 7 targets, and 43 yards. Decent amount of points there, not great. Obviously, you'd like to see more, and if they are behind, we've seen crazier things happen in the NFL. This whole season's been crazy in general, but for the other hand, Dotson, 3 catches, 4 targets, 23 yards, and a touchdown. He's consistently getting these touchdowns now, it seems like, for the most part. So both these guys are cautionary starts, like I said, and then Curtis Samuel's a sit. Cowboys side of the ball, though, going up against the 30th ranked Commanders defense, who just got kind of exposed for the most part by the New York Giants and Tommy DeVito. I'm going to start CeeDee Lamb. There's no doubt about it. You're not sitting him. He's been on a tear the last couple weeks. But Michael Gallup and Brandon Cooks are going to be cautionary starts for me. I would lean more towards Brandon Cooks being more of the play than Michael Gallup, though, in this matchup. And then lastly, our 8 o'clock game for Thanksgiving. You have the 49ers and the Seahawks here. Brandon Ayuk's going to be a start for me. That is the guy for Brock Purdy. He did it last week. This is going to continue here, I believe, for Brandon Ayuk. 5 catches, 6 targets, 156 yards, and a touchdown last week. And that was up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are currently ranked 29th against wide receivers. Now, Seattle isn't ranked 19th, a little bit better, but I don't think that it's going to be a major factor, especially with the divisional game like this. I do think Brandon Ayuk's going to continue to get those points. Deebo Samuel, on the other hand, will be a cautionary start for me. 9 points last week. 3 catches, 4 targets, 63 yards. Not the best outing for Deebo Samuel, but again, that shoulder, it could still be a factor. Even though he's back on the field, doesn't mean that his shoulder is back to, that full range of motion, so we'll have to wait and see, but he's a cautionary start, and then John Jennings is going to be a sit. Seahawks side of the ball, though, DK Metcalf is a start for me up against the 49ers, who are 26th ranked when it comes to points given up to receivers. Tyler Lockett is going to be a cautionary start for me, though, especially because he's dealing with a questionable tag right now. And, on a short week, he might not even play, to be honest with you. But I have a feeling Tyler Lockett could be on that field, and I'll put him as a cautionary start. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba in this matchup will be a sit. And now we have a really weird matchup here. Dolphins and Jets on Friday. Tyreek Hill is going to be a start for me in this matchup. Stephon Diggs was held to only 6 points last week, but Tyreek Hill's another whole factor here. He's got the speed, he's got the acceleration, he's got the burst. This is a guy who is number 1 in every single league for fantasy football points. So he's definitely going to be a start for me. He is dealing with a questionable tag as well with that hand. I do think he ends up playing, though, in this game against the Jets, who are ranked number 1 against wide receivers. Now, that being said, Jalen Waddle, if they do somehow find a way to stop Tyreek Hill, it's usually because you have to double team him, especially with that speed. So Jalen Waddle, who also has speed, is a cautionary start for me. For me, Waddle is more of a flex play, nothing more this week. You have to be a little bit cautious with that as well. He did have a knee injury a couple weeks back and then a bye week, so still kind of coming back from that, so we'll wait and see. But as of right now, Jalen Waddle, cautionary start, and then Cedric Wilson, it will be a sit for me. Moving on with the Jets side of the ball, though, here you got Garrett Wilson as a cautionary start here. No Zach Wilson anymore here, so Tim Boyle is going to be the guy under center this week against the Dolphins, who are 24th against wide receivers. Now, that being said, got to see how that chemistry connects with Garrett Wilson and the rest of these receivers. Obviously, they're going to continue to target Wilson, but I mean, Wilson had 8 targets last week and only 2 catches on 9 yards. Now, that, like I said, though, that was based on Zach Wilson's play. But not only that, he is dealing with a questionable tag going into this matchup as well on a short week, just like Tyreek Hill is. But I just don't like the matchup at all for Garrett Wilson, especially with who's under center. Yes, they do give up a lot of points to Dolphins wide receivers. I got to sit back and wait. If you do have to play them, I understand that, especially with some, you got a full slate of games. If there's not a better option out there or you have a bunch of injuries, whatever the case is, I get playing them. I would just lower your expectations this week, just like last week. Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard are going to be sits in this matchup as well. Now we got our 1 o'clock games here, Buccaneers and Colts. Mike Evans is a start for me. Chris Godwin is going to be a cautionary start, and Trey Palmer will be a sit in this matchup. Mike Evans obviously is Baker's guy, 5 catches on 12 targets for 43 yards and a touchdown. He's got that target upside. Now, the only reason Godwin is a cautionary start, not a start, is Trey Palmer's eating into his targets. Something to keep an eye on there. I will say that Trey Palmer eating into Chris Godwin's targets could be a big factor here going forward near the end of the year. Now, Colts side of the ball, though, going up against the Buccaneers, who I earlier stated as the 29th ranked against wide receivers points given up. Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs are both going to be starts, and then Alec Pierce is going to be a sit in this matchup. Now, this next matchup should be pretty simple and pretty sweet, straight to the point here. Patriots Giants here. I'm going to start Demario Douglas. I would say more of a wide receiver 2 / flex play. That's kind of risky there to put him at a wide receiver 2, but a low end at the best. Now, when it comes to Devontae Parker, who's questionable in this going into this matchup, and Juju Smith-Schuster, I'm sitting both of them. So if it's not Demario Douglas, nobody else is really getting targeted right now. And we also don't know who's going to be the quarterback right now as of this moment. But knowing the way that the offense has been utilizing Demario Douglas, I would expect that to continue in this matchup moving forward as well. Giants side of the ball, you're sitting everybody. Darius Slayton is dealing with a questionable tag as well. I forgot to put that on the screen. However, I do believe he will be back from his arm injury that was sustained in last week's matchup. But regardless of whether he plays or not, I'm going to go ahead and sit him in this matchup. Now we have a divisional rivalry game here, Steelers and Bengals. You got Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, Allen Robinson for the Steelers here. Deontay Johnson is going to be a cautionary start for me. Bengals are 17th against the pass here, but Kenny Pickett just looks god-awful. God-awful the last couple weeks here. So Deontay Johnson, lower your expectations. A flex play for me, really. That's about it in this matchup. George Pickens and Allen Robinson will be sits in this matchup. Now for the Bengals side of the ball, this is where it's going to be a little tricky as well. Jamar Chase is a cautionary start. You put him in a wide receiver too. You gotta have to at that point. And, you're probably going to start him no matter what if you don't have the options, especially depending on how high you took him. Usually, more than likely, it's in the first round, unless for whatever reason people you draft with have no idea what the hell they're doing. But nevertheless, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are both cautionary starts here. T. Higgins is also questionable. He did miss last couple weeks. Those are the guys I would more put my money on to get fantasy points. Now, Jamar Chase only did have 2 catches on 7 targets for 12 yards and a touchdown. Salvaged his day a little bit there with the touchdown, but not if you had him at wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. That's more of a flex play. Needless to say, though, with a whole week of Jake Browning under center and practicing with them, maybe that connection can develop. But those two are cautionary starts for me in this matchup. Tyler Boyd and Trenton Irwin are going to be sits for me. Now we got Carolina and the Titans. This one should be pretty simple as well. Adam Thielen's going to be a start for me in this one. Titans are 27th with points given up to wide receiver position. Adam Thielen had a pretty decent day last week. 8 catches, 11 targets, 74 yards. Pretty good overall. I'd like to see a little bit more of what he was originally before the bye week, but hey, I'll take that at flex. Nevertheless, maybe even a wide receiver 2 low end for me. Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark, though, are going to be sits. Titans side of the ball, this one will be pretty easy as well. DeAndre Hopkins will be a cautionary start. Kyle Phillips, Treylon Burks, and Westbrook Ihine are going to be sits for me. Burks is still has that questionable tag from that game against the Steelers a couple weeks back. But DeAndre Hopkins, on the other hand, I mean, the dude's a stud, all right? He's always been a great contributor in the league for the wide receiver position. So even though the Panthers are fifth against that position in points given up, DeAndre Hopkins should be more of a, like I said, a wide receiver 2 flex play as well. So none of these guys in this matchup I would really consider putting at the wide receiver 1 position. Now this one's going to be good as well. Jaguars, Texans. Christian Kirk is going to be a start for me in this matchup. He should be bouncing back from last week's a little setback there. Not a huge one, 3 catches, 6 targets, 48 yards, 7 points. Obviously not his better performance there, but a lot of that had to do with the man that's right below him, who is a cautionary start, and that's Calvin Ridley. 7 catches, 9 targets, 103 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I love to see that on the bench, but hey, Calvin Ridley is so hit and miss anymore. He'll come in and have a good day, and then the next 3 weeks are anywhere near the production, and then you'll have another explosive game. You just never know. Hopefully they finally figured it out with him. I'd love to see Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley be fantasy viable together, just like we see Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. We'll get to a little bit here in a second. But that's going to be an interesting situation. As of right now, I have Christian Kirk as a start, Calvin Ridley as a cautionary start, and then Zay Jones as a sit. Texans side of the ball, though, start Nico Collins, start Tank Dell. I would throw Tank Dell at your wide receiver 1. At this point, the dude is just consistent. I mean, there's a reason he's got the first name Tank. The dude is he's lighting up the entire field. He's just cruising along and adding up those fantasy points. Nico Collins had 7 catches, 11 targets, and 65 yards. Not a terrible day. The targets are there. You love to see that. Obviously, no Noah Brown, so that's going to factor in this week possibly. But Tank Dell, 8 catches, 10 targets, 149 yards, and a touchdown. That is a fantastic day for Tank Dell. He's somebody I would put in at wide receiver 1 this week if you have him. And then Nico Collins is also a wide receiver 1 borderline low end, all with a wide receiver 2 outlook as well. I wouldn't hold him to a high standard here. Temper your expectations on him, but he still could have a really decent day here. Noah Brown's a cautionary start depending on if he comes back or not with a questionable tag. He does have a knee injury, so again, temper your expectations even if he does come back. And then Robert Woods is a sit for me in this matchup. Moving on now, you got the Saints and the Falcons. This one's pretty self-explanatory as well, considering that Michael Thomas just went on the IR. Chris Olave is going to be a start. He's going to devour all the targets possible for this team other than Alvin Kamara and maybe a little Taysom Hill, depending on who's at quarterback. Now, that's obviously Chris Olave is going to take majority of that, and so is Kamara. Taysom Hill is going to be a factor on whether it's Derek Carr or Jameis Winston at quarterback. But Chris Olave, start him, like I said. Rashid Shaheed and A.T. Perry are going to be sits for me in this matchup. He's expected to step up here in that Michael Thomas factor as a wide receiver 3 here. Nowhere near the production as of what I'm expecting right now, but we'll have to wait and see. Falcons side of the ball, Drake London's a cautionary start here for me. Him and Desmond Ridder had a little bit of a connection going, and then, obviously they pulled Ridder out and put Taylor Heineke, and now Heineke's kind of hurt, and they came out saying that the original plan was to just kind of give him a little bit of time to sit under Taylor Heineke, see where he can make adjustments, and then put him back in, and now he's getting that opportunity. Now Heineke's hurt. Now Matt Collins and Van Jefferson are going to be sits for me in this matchup. Moving on with our 4 o'clock games here, Rams, Cardinals. This one should be pretty easy as well. Puka Nacua will be a start for me in this matchup. He is dealing with a little bit of a question mark as well. I do expect him to actually play this week, considering that he hasn't really had that many injuries throughout the year, and he's also not dealing with something that is lingering around like Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp is dealing with an ankle injury here, and considering that they put him on an IR with a hamstring injury to start the season, I would expect them to kind of ease him into it. Now, if he does play, he is a cautionary start for me because it's an ankle injury. He tried to come back last week and just couldn't. They heavily taped it, just couldn't get it to work to where he can come back and play efficiently enough. So I have a feeling they're going to end up sitting him this week, but if he does play, Cautionary start. Make sure you temper your expectations there. Tutu Atwell will be a sit for me in this matchup. And then for the Arizona Cardinals, I'm actually going to sit all of the receivers in this matchup. Kyler Murray's back. I love it. But Rondale Moore was a big play down the field guy. 1 catch, 1 target, 48 yards, and a touchdown. And that's just not enough for me. One big play cannot make your whole day. Marquise Brown on the same side here. 2 catches, 5 targets, and 18 yards. Now, that was against the Texans last week, who were 13th against wide receiver points giving up. Now the Cardinals are going up against the Rams, who are 14th in that category. So I'm actually going to go ahead and sit all the Cardinals receivers in this matchup. Browns and Broncos now, and this one is going to be Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore as cautionary starts here going up against the Broncos, who surprisingly have the 4th best defense against wide receivers points given up. So they are really up there in the top 5 there. So those guys on the top of your expectations, especially with DTR at quarterback now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson instead of Deshaun Watson. That's definitely a big factor in this one as well. He does get another week under center and preparation with the first team to see how this factors in, but cautionary starts for them, and then Cedric Tillman will be a sit. Broncos side, same thing here. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy are cautionary starts for me, and Marvin Mims is a sit. Reason being is the Browns are the 2nd best against points given up to wide receivers. That secondary is legit, and that pass rush is legit. I mean, this whole defense is legit for the Browns, so just make sure that you have those factored in there for you for this matchup when you make your decisions. Now we got the Bills and the Eagles, and I'm going to start Stephon Diggs. Yes, he has been a little disappointing in the last 2 weeks here, but going up against the Eagles, who are the last ranked against points given up to wide receivers at 32, I like the opportunity for a bounce-back game for Stephon Diggs. Now, that being said, Khalil Shakir has definitely been taking over in that number 2 role. I mean, 3 catches, 4 targets, 115 yards, and a touchdown against the Jets. Are you kidding me? They held Stephon Diggs, but they couldn't hold this guy down. So that being said, I'm going to give Khalil Shakir a cautionary start and then Gabe Davis a sit. Eagles side of the ball, though, I'm going to start A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and sit Julio Jones. I'm starting A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith here against the Bills, even though they are the 9th best against points given up to wide receivers. Just the factor of Jalen Hurts rushing upside is definitely going to allow them to be able to throw the ball a little bit more as well. As the Kansas City Chiefs found out on Monday Night Football, if you just allow Jalen Hurts to scramble and get to a point where they can get in the end zone or at least get close, he'll run it in. So that's a factor that you're going to have to worry about now with the Bills, is they're going to have to guard or try to keep Jalen Hurts under wraps, and that's going to open up opportunities for more passing in this matchup. And then we got the Chiefs and the Raiders here. I'm going to go ahead and give a cautionary start to Rashee Rice here. 8 points is decent, but not great enough to put him as a start. I would make sure that it's a cautionary start there, especially against the Raiders, who are 12th against wide receiver points given up. Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Sky Moore are both. All 3 of those are sits for me. Now on the Raiders side of the ball, Devontae Adams, welcome back. It seems like they figured out a way to get him involved with Aiden O'Connell. Now the Chiefs are 6th against points given up to wide receivers, but Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams. There's no explanation needed other than here's the name, know it, study it, learn it, love it. There you go. Devontae Adams is a start for me. Jacoby Myers a cautionary start. He's kind of been taking a little bit of a step back here for Devontae Adams to ignite the way that he has. And then Hunter Renfrow is a sit for me in this matchup. Now we have our Sunday night game here, and it's the Ravens and Chargers. I'm going to start Zay Flowers, and if Odell Beckham plays, I'm starting him in this matchup. The 31st ranked Chargers to points given up to receivers. I like that opportunity there. Zay Flowers should be able to capitalize on that. Now, if he can't in this matchup, I'm a little concerned about him moving forward, to be honest with you. He has had a couple tough passing matchups the last couple weeks. Now he's got an easy one here against the Chargers, who are at 31st. Let's see what they can do. Obviously, they need Lamar to be able to play a little bit better than what he has fantasy-wise as well. He's been putting up decent points, but not great points the last couple weeks. And then Odell Beckham, 4 catches, 7 targets, and 116 yards before he got hurt with an injury. So definitely look for him if he is available to start him. I'd put him more a wide receiver too. Same thing with Zay Flowers. Nelson Aguilar and Rashad Bateman are sits. Chargers side of the ball, short, sweet, to the point. Keenan Allen's a start. Quentin Johnston and Jalen Guyton, who is questionable, are going to be sits. And then finally, we have the Monday night game here, Bears and Vikings. DJ Moore is going to be a start for me in this one. Darnell Mooney is going to be a cautionary start. Tyler Scott and E. St. Brown are going to be a sit in this matchup for me. I do like the opportunity for DJ Moore, especially with Justin Fields back. Obviously, that was a big boost for him and his production, so definitely look for that to continue. Now, Darnell Mooney did not have a great game last week. 1 catch, 1 target, 24 yards. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough there. Now, the Vikings are a little bit better than the Lions, but now that Mooney has another week with Justin Fields, obviously DJ Moore and Fields had that connection this whole time. Look for Mooney to have a little bit of a better game. I would just be a little cautious with starting him in this game. And obviously, Tyler Scott and St. Brown are going to obviously be no explanation there. I don't think that they're going to have enough opportunities here in this game to do anything about production fantasy-wise. Vikings side of the ball, though, Justin Jefferson is questionable. If he plays, he did the same thing as last week. He did just come out with a report saying he's not playing until he's 100% healthy. So if you have him in fantasy football, good luck to you. I hope he was a good pick and he was worth it at the end of the day. So hopefully you've been able to manage and make it to the playoffs because he will be a good factor for you at the end of the year. But if he does play, he's going to start. Jordan Addison's a cautionary start in this matchup. Bears are 16th against the wide receiver position. And obviously if Jordan Addison is a cautionary start, Justin Jefferson is back. Now, if Justin Jefferson is not back, move Jordan Addison to a start. Cannot stress that enough. That is a good opportunity for Jordan Addison. He'll obviously get majority of the targets. KJ Osborne and Brandon Powell are going to be sits for me in this matchup. And that'll do it for us on the wide receiver start sit video for week 12. All 16 games. Nobody's on a bye week. Definitely a little bit of a longer video, but hey, hope everyone has a great fantasy football week. You got college football at the end of the year as well. So make sure you stay around with your family. Give thanks for everything that you have and enjoy your holiday. We'll catch you later next week. Have a good one.